Astrotometry log. It's May 21st, 2010. It's approximately 0019 UTC at the time of this recording. This is a follow-up on the earthquake watch from the following coronal disturbance and the tropical cyclone watch that I had reinstated. This is the activity that we're seeing right now. You can see these little later movements that happened after the formation of this one. And USGS recorded what was just a couple of minutes ago a 6.2 in Costa Rica, and then earlier yesterday they had recorded a 6.0 in Peru. In the area that I have been watching for this watch, I want to go ahead and vlog that the Peru quake was recorded as a 6.4 and that there was some damage reported to roads and houses, and that Reuters reported the other quake as a 6.3, the one in Costa Rica that just happened basically less than 2 hours ago. So this is sort of the ballpark right now. And what I mentioned before is that these events are broken up in such a way that they could actually exist in other latitudes. And I was also watching the Ring of Fire because the earlier activity seemed to be associated with that area. And I do believe that that's the case now. What I did is I went to the IRIS site and I did a very interesting check on this. I plotted the recent quakes greater than 4 in magnitude since the 16th, which the watch is running through the 23rd. And I plotted it between 20 north and minus 20 south and made a map of this. And this is the map. And so you've got these two clusters of activity, one cluster right here and one cluster right here. And the interesting thing about this is the 180 degree, almost perfectly 180 degree separation. So if you consider this activity and you think about the horizontal difference between this group and this group's a little more over this way than over this way. But if you folded this map right here at the 0 point, you just folded this over and placed this activity that's down below the equator with this activity that is in this region, that is what I'm envisioning right now with respect to how this stuff is mapping through hypertime. And this is one of the difficult things with locating the quake longitudinally. The latitude is a lot easier to map, but to locate the longitude, you kind of have to look at where the activity is. And now I'm seeing, I believe that there's this sort of folding that is happening as the resonation propagates through the time space, as this this object that appears to us as a sphere is propagating through time space. And so the severity of the events that are upcoming is really unknown at this point. I am still expecting at least one more event from these disturbances. We're currently in the field where this disturbance is. It's possible that this is the area that was associated with the Peru quake right here. I don't think that's the case. I think it was this movement right over here. But it's possible that this is the movement that was associated, or the Costa Rica quake, excuse me, that this was the area associated with the Costa Rica quake. I don't think so, but it's possible. And if that's the case, then this might, map to Baja, or this might map to Chile, and I'm not sure. But because there is movement in these, in the time of the movement, you see that little, almost like a little electric shock there in the activity. That indicates more quake activity according to astrotometry. Watch is still on until the solar wind from this disturbance gets back down here to normal. And so the watch will be continued. The total solar radiance is still falling, as I had expected, as I had predicted, from the lack of higher energy activity. And it's not falling as quickly and this is a good thing. The slope on this curve is not nearly as steep as the slope on the curve before the Chile quake, or the slope on the curve before the Haiti quake. And so that's good news. Even though we had a sort of bump in solar activity, that bump wasn't from a place where it was not already previously in the cycle. So we didn't really cap up farther in the total solar radiance, and it's not falling as quickly. And so that's good news for the potential magnitude of these events. That this has a lesser slope is good news for the potential magnitude. A very large, high magnitude quake is still possible, but I don't know exactly where. Again, I'm still watching the regions that I mentioned. It could be anywhere at these latitudes though, and so the latitudes aren't exactly known. Most likely someplace that's had activity and having activity, because the coronal holes are just right on top of each other. And so those two regions are the most likely, since there's ongoing activity in both of those regions. And so back to the cyclone forecast. We did see Cyclone Laila form to the southeast of India, which it's been a long time since there's been apparently a long time since there's been a southeastern Indian hurricane. And this only made category 1. And the reason I believe that this only was category 1 is because the coronal mass ejection that created it, even though it was a significant mass ejection that might have otherwise produced a larger cyclone, the activity was broken up by a second coronal mass ejection. And what I sort of missed in this is that there has been some additional coronal mass ejection activity that has been directed away from the Earth, and then one that may have been directed directly towards the Earth that wasn't visible because of the disk, that wasn't visible because of the occulter disk. And so there was this northern ejection, which I'm not associating with tropical activity. I think this was more the activity that we saw that created the really serious storm activity in the United States. There's this other coronal mass ejection that ejects out this way, sort of away from the Earth, that is more a sort of potentially tropical event, but I don't think it's not there. I don't think that's necessarily associated with the Gulf of Mexico. And so we are seeing a disturbance now, coincidentally in the same region as the Costa Rica quake. The Naval Research Laboratory is tracking off the tip of the Yucatan Peninsula. I think that it could turn into a tropical storm. I doubt it will turn into a tropical storm, just from the size, what I see from the coronal mass ejection. I mean, this is a southern hemisphere ejection, and it's just not very large. And so we may see another southern hemisphere cyclone. I think it's too far. I think it's too far south to be a northern storm, though. And I think this one was too far north to map to the Gulf of Mexico. And so I realize that's all very kind of fuzzy a bit. But these are very small ejections. These are not anything that's I think that will put any enough energy to make a large cyclonic storm. So still watching for those earthquakes, and it's possible we'll have a southern hemisphere tropical cyclone, and possibly some more northern, more inland severe storm activity. But that should be it for now.